yeah, yeah.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding Sing joy, sing joy, sing joy. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love. Sing joy, sing, 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 sing joy, sing joy, sing joy.
Count to Gene in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tonight on the Flame Trench, a space industry CEO resigns. Crew 10 gets delayed. Direct to Cell is coming your way from space. A goodish report from Starship, and apparently EJ is going to do the entire show as Zoidberg. That and more coming up on the Flame Trench.
And here we go.
Thanks, Dave.
Chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside of speed off. Bring in speed off. It's orange!
Orange 25. Oh my god! Oh my
30
god!
seconds.
Decollage. Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
20.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
10.
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome in, everyone, to this week's Flame Trench. I'm Gene Rowley. I'm joined this week by two of the biggest space nerds that I know, and I'm glad that they're here. First up, we're going to welcome in EJ. EJ, come on in.
I did. All right. Oh, thank you very much for having me, my friend. I really appreciate it.
Yes. I threw him that one. He didn't know that was coming, everybody. He didn't know that was coming. So well
I
done,
didn't.
sir. Well done. Welcome in. Are you ready to talk some space news?
Always, man. Always.
Awesome. Also joining us, not to be left out in the cold, pun intended, is Alex. Welcome in, Alex.
Yeah, that was a very good impression of Dr. Soiver. Hello, everyone.
Oh, thank
It's
you
cold
very
a bit
much,
here in
Alex.
Spain today, but not as cold as some other places. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
That's
hot
okay.
though. Hang on, there. Well, this is
That's
also
hot.
hot. This is hot
The
staging.
background's
This is
hot.
hot.
That's awesome. And welcome to everybody on YouTube. Thanks for joining us and for this week's Flame Trench. There's a lot of stuff to talk about in space news. I'm going to lose the glasses. A lot of stuff to talk about in space news, and be sure to get your questions in at NASASpaceflight in the chat. Keep those coming. So we appreciate you guys all being here to talk about space news this week. We're going to start off because I heard there was an epic rant coming. So we're gonna go ahead and kick this one off with the Arianespace CEO is planning to leave. They're still going to work on their rockets, but that's going to be our first topic today because some people care, other people don't. And the real fact for us space nerds is we just want to make sure that the rocket development keeps going forward, right? Alex, I'm going to come to you on this one because I heard you were going to rant.
I have a few rants. Of course, the CEO leaving, it's non-rantable, I guess. It's, normal stuff of big companies, people coming and go, in terms of, the CEOs and everything. In this case, it is, so he has been CEO of Arianespace since 2013, and he's being replaced by David. Oh my gosh,
Good
I
luck.
cannot even pronounce this. I have it
You're gonna do it right the
written
first
down
time.
because I don't remember it, of course. Cavalolis? I don't. That's a
Nailed it.
French name. Yeah, okay, Cave. Yeah, whatever. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know French, even though they are our neighbors here, next to us in Spain. But I don't. That kind of compensates for all the people murdering my name. But yeah, the whole thing is apparently Stefan Israel, which is the still current, is going to depart at the end of the month in the year, of course, December 31st. He's apparently just pursuing a new career opportunity. Usually, this is sort of executive speak for we're letting him go, and he's doing other things. But yeah, that's usually what happens in these big companies, especially after, since 2013, that's more than 10 years, right? So it's been already for a long time. This tends to happen. I don't really have a rant about this. I do have a rant, though, about the other news related with not Arianespace, but Ariane Group, which is different. It's like Arianespace is like a subsidiary of Ariane Group. It's like Ariane Group is above it. And so Ariane Group has been working for a while on a program for a reusable booster, which is called the Themis or however it's pronounced. And after many years of promising, hey, we'll build that, we'll actually fly it, we'll hops and everything and jumps and whatever, they finally at least have built something, which is that you see there on screen. They have built the booster tanks and everything. Now they need to obviously, integrate all of this with avionics, propulsion and everything, and of course, landing legs, maybe grid fins. I don't even know if they're going to be integrating that, because these hops are going to be just 100 meters, the first ones in altitude. But the engine that it's going to use, it's another older program that, Ariane Group, also with ESA as well, they have been working on this for a long time with this, which is the Prometheus engine. That's one of the tests that they did a few years ago, and or might have been like last year. The reason why I say it might have been last year is because they've been testing this engine for a while, and they've said, we'll fly it, we'll use it, it's a Methalox engine, but, it's been in the works for so many years. It's one of my rant for this topic in particular is that it seems like they haven't taken seriously this thing, where it's like, now they're getting to the point of they have a tank for this booster reusability program, right? It's like, meanwhile, Ariane Group also, spun off like another company recently, which was Mayaspaceflight, and they're working also on reusable rockets, right? And I think that they're even going to be using some kind of, similar propulsion system like Prometheus on that rocket. And, there's this whole different set of approaches within the European continent, so to speak, from established, the established companies like Ariane Group, Avio. Avio is the one that builds some of the stages for the Vega rocket and things like that. There's these big players in the European spaceflight industry which have been the establishment, so to speak, for a long while, and now they're trying to take it seriously, and it's taking actually a lot longer than they anticipated. That's my whole rant. This is going to be a plug as well for the series that we're doing of Europe's future in space. We've done already 2 episodes with PLD Space and High Impulse. It's going to be, this thing of going and interviewing. Well, actually, they come to us to these live streams. Of officials from the European industry, multiple different companies, private, government, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the full list, unfortunately. But we're going to invite whoever wants to come in and talk about all of these things, because it's quite a hot topic these days. That we have Russia, China, the U.S., but Europe,
China.
Yeah,
It's
I
sort
mean,
of
these
in a
CEOs, they
limbo.
come, they go.
Just
It's whether they can continue their rocket development, and where they go from there. Go ahead, Al.
one last thing in this whole rant, just to put it in perspective. This year, Iran launched as many times as Europe, and many more successes, actually, because all of their launches were a successful launch. They launched more than Europe. So, that's the status of the European spaceflight industry.
Huh. Hey,
Hopefully,
Lords of Random, thank you for
future will
that
be
$2
better.
super chat. And of course, everybody could, hear Jay. Jay's in the background. We love him. He's pushing all the buttons. He makes it possible for us to do. And EJ, you were making faces. You were making faces during that. We were talking about the CEO stepping down. You wanted to jump in on this comment, right?
I have thoughts. They might be a little spicy, but we are in the flame trench. Anybody out there, let's get some spice?
Heat it up, brother. Heat it up.
Okay, all right, fine. Alex showed up, Themis and Prometheus and all this other stuff. Like, it's no doubt that Stefan Israel has done some good stuff for Ariane Group and whatnot, right? But also at the same time, this is the guy that went up in a public forum like 2 months ago and said that, SpaceX is not the future because their rocket, it doesn't, SpaceX isn't the future, Arianespace is, because our rocket, actually launches customer payloads. He said that, like, in a public forum. And it doesn't make sense to do reuse because all of SpaceX's missions are internal.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
boy.
and at the same time, they're building Prometheus and Themis to basically be a clone of the Falcon 9.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Maybe that's
Here-
Starship
know,
launched
that's why
this
he's
year
stepping
more
down as
times
CEO.
than Europe.
What'd you
We're
say,
f-
Alex?
There were 4 launches of Starship this year.
Mhm.
Europe launched 3 times: Ariane 6, Vega, and Vega C. And I'm not saying 3 times for each rocket, like 1 time for each rocket.
Yeah, I mean,
That was all.
here's the thing, Gene. The time to do reuse was 5 years ago. I mean, Ariane's rolling out this big expendable rocket, and I've always said to people, Ariane 6 is a great rocket. If it's 2015, it's a great rocket. It's fantastic. You know, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I'm not trying to sit here that I could say I could do it better. Like, obviously not. I'm just look at me. You know what I mean? But what I'm trying to say is that, for all the resources that Ariane Group has, the best you could come up with is, P120C unification between Vega C and Ariane 6. Like, this is it. Maybe a test for a suborbital hopper, a test to prove that the test for the suborbital landable rocket could basically might be a test for a test that's something that might get used in the future. Like, what's that about? I mean, like, personally, like, I want to see the resources of Europe being pooled for this, but apparently not. Apparently that's a lot to ask for.
Well, they've been teasing 100-meter hop tests forever now, and and it goes back to the conversation I think we had a couple weeks ago about, like, old NASA and new NASA, right? And I don't want to get on that topic, but is it still the old mindset of build one rocket, launch one rocket, instead of build one rocket, launch it, recover first stage at a minimum these days? That's where they're going, but they seem to be taking forever to get there. I wonder if this new CEO will be able to move things forward faster. Who knows?
Yeah,
I
mean,
I hope so. I mean, the new guy is younger, dude. So it's a lot like if at the time of this cast, if you're watching this in the future, first of all, hi from the past. Second of all, Jared Isaacman is still the nomination for NASA administrator, but Jared Isaacman is the youngest NASA administrator ever. Hopefully, David Caviles, if he can, I mean, he's 36. He's younger than Rook. Maybe that's what you need. Maybe you need some fresh blood in there. That's great. I mean, I think if anything redeeming came out of this is that you guys have there's a younger guy running the show now, which is great. That's good. Maybe he'll put foot to tail, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, apart from this, is the whole thing of the SpaceX launch drive and everything is just internal launches, and it's like, how many internal launches have you launched? Because if Arianespace, they were to just launch internal European, satellites and payloads and whatever, they will have a very decent manifest, but they just don't. We had a few of these payloads going on Falcon 9. We had 2 Galileo launches, launching each 2 Galileo satellites. Like, let's be real. If those had gone to an Arianespace rocket, that will have been 2 more launches that they will have been able to do. This whole thing of, internal, like, this is a theme that others also talk about, like, it's because they launch Starlinks and whatever, and that's why they have hundreds of launches. And it's like, yeah, but out of the 120 something that they have already done, 50 of them have been for customers. There's no company in the world right now that can launch 50 launches for a commercial customer. There's none in the world right now. Even Rocket Lab has launched 15 times this year, maybe a 16th next week. So it's like, I don't know, man.
Yeah. You're saying the requirement or the request for those rockets, the need for those rockets might not be there. And especially when you're talking about the cost to low Earth orbit being so low with other launch providers, where does Arianespace show up in the market? Like that's a tough decision. We want to get to your questions, guys. Be sure to get your questions in at NASASpaceflight in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as we can. Remember, we can't do all of them. Try to keep them on topic, or if it's a great question, we'll go ahead and pull it. I did want to say though, EJ,
Hello.
your shirt looks really good. I mean, it's weird.
Hey. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
right?
It's a great shirt.
Somebody didn't get the memo when we were talking about the Thrust collection. Apparently, somebody's wearing a sweater from, or as they say, jumper. Right?
Somebody decided to go and wear a Christmas shirt.
You got? Oh, you got.
What is it?
I have the one with the future administrator of NASA, I guess.
With the future,
All right, that's pretty good.
All right, so here we go. Here's a good question from Carson Phillips. We'll get this one in there. What's the cost difference? And by the way, thank you for that question. What's the cost difference between SpaceX and the European launch providers? Do we have that data? I mean, we know SpaceX, right? We can figure that one out based on the weight of the rocket, mass to orbit. But do the European launch providers have anything that stacks up to that? Alex, I'll go to you first.
Well, back in the day, the way that they sort of, were able to compete, because let's not forget, Ariane 5 was the workhorse of GTO launchers. Like, of all of the launchers out in the world, it was Proton and Ariane 5, the ones that launch most, if not, most, because there was some on Atlas back in the day. But like, of all of the GTO launches between 1990 and the 2000s and even the 2010s, most of them launch on Ariane or Proton rockets. Ariane 4, Ariane 5, you name it. One of the reasons they were able to do that, especially on Ariane 5 with such an expensive rocket, because let's be honest, Ariane 5 started as this human-rated vehicle to launch the Hermes spaceplane and whatever. One of the things is that it was very expensive. The way that they were able to get around that was to fit 2 satellites instead of 1 on the rocket, which means that if your rocket is $180 million, for example, per launch, you split the cost between the 2 customers, so you have 90 per customer, which, to be fair, compared to an Atlas, which is, an Atlas, it's back in the day, was $200 million. It could probably also do split, but, it will still be more expensive than an Ariane 5. Proton was also around along the same price, 80, 70 million. And Falcon 9 came along and, it was 60. Then with the reuse, seems like it's around 50. That is a lot more competitive than Ariane 5. And so that's why they came around with Ariane 6. Their hope was that Ariane 6 will sell for essentially $50 million per customer, also with dual launch. But in the middle of the development, mega constellations were a thing, and GTO satellites were just on the decline. And that's what we're seeing nowadays, where maybe medium Earth orbit or low Earth orbit is sort of the thing now. And so now they're trying to compensate that by saying we're launching mega constellations instead of having the 2 big satellites. We'll have many different smaller satellites, and that's how we'll split. The prices. Still, it's quite a pricey rocket. And in fact, there's been reports that at least for ESA, because it was developed with ESA funds, it just doesn't compensate, because the cost of development, when you add it up, it actually makes the rocket at the end of the day be about the same as Ariane 5 in terms of the cost. So yeah, the cost difference is probably like in 10, 20, 30 million dollars. And of course, now with Ariane 6 being a new rocket, you also have the insurance. It's a higher insurance than Falcon 9, which is a very proven rocket. You name it.
Yeah. Along the same lines, Fozilla has a very similar question, but it brings in NASA. I'm going to go to EJ for this one. Is it fair to compare ESA to SpaceX and then to NASA?
I think ESA and NASA are comparable. in this regard. You want to compare, government or public sector space program to a public sector space program. So in that regard, you'd want to compare like Ariane 6, not necessarily to Falcon 9. You'd want to compare it to SLS. But I wouldn't compare either of those to Falcon 9 because,
Right.
I mean, when you're looking at the, I know that was a weird sentence to say. I'm not going to lie to you. If you look at like SLS and you look at Ariane 6 and you look at these big public sector space programs, right? A lot of the time with the unit costs, per launch, you're getting total cost involved. So what does it cost? And development funds, as Alex was just saying, gets roped into your unit price because it's TCI. So in economics, total cost involved is, how much is the entire thing going to cost? So like, let's say I want to go to the store and buy some eggs, right? And the eggs are $1. I mean, I wish, right? Say the eggs are $1, right? You don't just say, oh, today if you just want to talk about unit price, you talk about the eggs. But if you want total cost involved, okay, I had to get in my car, I had to drive the car there, cost of operation of the car, fuel or battery charge, whatever, whatever vehicle you choose to drive around in, right? What's the cost of gasoline getting there? With maintenance on the car, going in, am I using a card? Am I using a credit card? Am I using like, you're basically trying to figure everything all in at once in the total cost. So I think comparing ESA to NASA, public sector to public sector is good, but comparing public sector to private doesn't really make a lot of sense because public sector is always going to look better on paper, right? Like people go, oh, look at that SLS launch. It costs like $2 billion to launch. Falcon 9 costs, 60 million. I mean, that's what SpaceX says, but with reuse, it's probably lower. When you look at that, Falcon 9 looks way better. And I'm not saying that it isn't, but, remember the context is comparing public to private, right? Like, so I don't think they're comparable, to be honest with you.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Government versus the private sector. ESA and NASA. We don't say NASA or whatever. Your hat's got the worm logo on it. The ESA, NASA. I like that. Everybody's in the back channel giving you flack. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna call you Ash.
Virtual loner. What'd you say, Alex?
Or Ash. I don't know.
I'm not
we're gonna call you Edge from now.
I'm not changing my mind about this. No, sorry. That it's ESA in my mind, and dude, I'm stubborn. It's not changing. I know I'm saying it wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong.
Chat going back and forth.
I don't care. Sorry.
Virtual, thank you so much for that $10 super chat. How many rated rockets does Ariane have compared to SpaceX? That's not even
None.
close. Like that's none, zero.
Well, they had one.
This.
Operative word.
0.
Not a lot of people know that Ariane 5 was human rated from the start because it was supposed to launch a little European crew shuttle that's something analogous to Dream Chaser.
Yeah.
It's gonna launch Hermes, and they built Ariane 5 to launch Hermes, and then didn't build Hermes.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah.
Well, on the topic of crew rated vehicles, I'm going to move on to Crew 10. We got word this week that Crew 10 was delayed, which means, drum roll please, an extension of mission for 2 wayward astronauts that are now part of Crew 9.
Gene, are they stranded? Oh no!
I'm not going to say that word.
Are they stranded?
I'm not saying that word.
I want somebody think of the astronauts.
Think of the children.
It's for the astronauts. Think of the astronaut, Alex. No, I don't. I'm not going to say that word. They have a ride home. Yeah, thanks, Jet. They have a ride, and it's up there. It's a new crew vehicle from SpaceX. That's going to take their Dragons to 5. So they wanted to delay a little bit. Alex, this is not a big deal, them delaying this. Butch and Sonny are going to be up in the ISS for a little bit longer, right? Not a big deal. And as an astronaut, they could probably be like, heck yeah, leave me up here forever, man.
Yeah, right? What a tragic thing to be in space for longer. I mean, they'll probably regret it when they're back and it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot even stand up. But, being in space, floating around, that's cool. And also working with your crew on the ISS, because they're not just those 2 alone. They have another 5 more people on the ISS. But that's the crew of Crew 10 with Nicole Mann, hang on. No, I'm McLean. Nick Holman was the one from Crew 5 Commander. Anne McLean, pilot Nicole Ayers, and then specialist Takuya Noishi and Kirill Peskov. I know that Kirill is new and Nicole is also new. Anne McLean is definitely not new. She was up in the station. By the way, she was also the first person to enter a Crew Dragon in orbit. That's a neat fact that I know because I was there. I was not on the ISS, but I was watching the live stream when that happened.
That's pretty neat.
But yeah, so now she's gonna be commanding a Crew Dragon. That's really awesome. So
How neat is that?
Hmm?
How neat is that? That's
yeah,
pretty
right.
neat.
Like I
That's
remember
cool.
when she did the whole thing of like entering Crew Dragon, and saying, from the crew of Expedition whatever, welcome to the Crew Dragon, and she was with Ripley and the Earth plushie and everything. It was really cool. That was demo 1 back in 2019. But anyways, back to topic. So yeah, the Crew 10 mission has been delayed by about a month or so due to their capsule. They're going to be on a new Crew Dragon. So not only she went into the first Crew Dragon to go into orbit, but also she's going to be on a brand new Crew Dragon, the 5th Crew Dragon capsule. That's going to be capsule 213. That's the serial number. We don't know the name. They're going to get to name that. Maybe they have already chosen that name. We don't know. But we'll get to know once closer to that mission. And so that capsule is still at Hawthorne. It's going to be shipped in early January, I think they said. And so what they're going to do is, they just need a little bit more time to outfit it. They're going to be putting it out. They have 2 places right now at the Cape. They have Dragonland. I think it's Area 59. It's called like that. I'm not making it up. It's called like that.
Is that
The Cape
where
Canaveral
the
Space
aliens
Force
are,
Station,
Alex?
and they call it Dragonland. It's also called Area 59. It's a whole thing. And then at Hangar X2, they have also a little bit of space for Dragon processing as well. I'm not sure where they're going to be carrying it. Probably Hangar X2, maybe Dragonland. No idea. But they have those 2 places at the Cape, and so they're going to be able to process that. They need a little bit more time, and so that's why they're delaying to late March 2025. People, like even the media, are already blowing this up with, the stranded astronauts are going to be coming down in March. Actually, let me do an actually. Hang on.
Wayward astronaut.
Hang on.
Oh,
Actually,
it's official now.
there you go. They're going to be coming up in, they're going to be coming down in April because there's a period of handover. So when Crew 10 goes up in late March, they're going to be staying there for a week or so, and then Crew 9 will come back. And that'll probably be in early April just because of how the dates align. I think I've heard March 25th for the launch of Crew 10. So if you give it a week or so, that's, already into April. So actually, they're going to be coming back in April, so not March. But yeah, that's a whole thing, and that's sort of the news. And it's been blown up by mainstream media everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think the public kind of thinks, oh my gosh, they're stranded. They don't have, they think they're just in a tin can floating in space alone by themselves. And it's like, no, they're in the freaking space station.
That's what sells newspapers. That's what sells subscriptions. Yeah. Astronauts stranded on the ISS. EJ, they're not stranded. We know they're not stranded. We know that there's a contingency plan. But I'm going to talk about the astronauts for a minute. They're loving it, right?
Oh no,
That's what they do.
Got to spend 7 months up here. That
Oh my gosh.
that sucks. Oh no, that's terrible. I really don't think they mind. I mean, no doubt it's gonna put, that like their families would probably miss them. Just saying, probably do, especially through the holidays, right? But there's actually in the astronaut corps, there's a great support structure. It's not there. There's other spouses from other astronauts that can help them out. Like it's not like they ain't hurting. It does stink. Missing your. Oh, that was my phone. All right, cool. It does stink missing, your loved ones during the holidays and stuff. But I think they're having the time of their life up there. That would be great. It'd be fun.
I mean, what else
Yeah.
are you going to be missing in April, right? Spring break.
I mean, you went up there for a couple of days and stayed 10 months. Oh darn.
Yeah, they're
No.
already missing Christmas. They're not going to be missing much in March.
Well, I still have the question of, are they coming back with an adapter for their launch and recovery suits, or did SpaceX send them launch recovery suits specific for Dragon? Like, has that been in the news at all?
So, okay, Alex, you correct me if I'm wrong. Jad, you guys correct me if I'm wrong here. There was a spare suit up on the space station already, and the Crew 9 Dragon that launched up there had another suit. So they have SpaceX suits. They actually tailored, so the suit up there fits Sonny, and they sent up Barry Wilmore's suit using his tailor specifications from his Starliner suit to make him a SpaceX suit, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, and that was the question, because they make those suits specifically for the individual. Luckily, the one up there fits Sonny. That's what you're saying.
And I want to mention something, because I see, because we're doing this whole thing of like, joking about, oh, they're stranded and everything. They're no longer stranded by any definition, to be fair. Like, they could come home whenever, because their Dragon is there, they have their suits, they have everything. Somebody was saying in chat that they're marooned because they don't have a way to come back home. They do. Like, they have a capsule where they can go in with their suits, strap in, come back home. They're just delaying that so that, they have an overlap with the next one. Because otherwise, the station just goes down to 3 people, and actually just 3 cosmonauts. Like, it will not be a good, safe thing to do, to just have it down to 3 people and also not have enough crew to maintain the station, right? So you need that overlap. That's why they're delaying the return of Crew 9. It's not really because, they cannot come back home. They could. There's just, operational things.
Yeah, but which one sells more newspapers? Astronauts are perfectly fine on ISS waiting till March, or astronauts stranded on ISS, no way home, right? I mean, you tell me. Astro Knucklehead, thank you so much for that super chat, and a super long thing. By the way, this is he says this is the in support on behalf of my favorite moderator, RC Horseman. Everybody loves RC. He's not apologizing to Westy. Really got a great shot right there. You had to go with Connect. Merry Christmas, everybody. He just wanted to say that to everybody. Thank you for that support. And by the way, thank you to everybody who clicks the like button, sends us a question. Whatever you do, we appreciate it. Being here to watch and talk with us on the Flame Trench, we appreciate that. Let's stay with the Starliner news a little bit, because we're really talking about Crew 10 being delayed, right? Let's talk about why there was that delay in that 5th Dragon for the fleet. And EJ, I'm going to come to you first on this one. This is a minor thing. This is not like a major problem or anything. They were like, look, it's a brand new system. We're doing some stuff, and we're going to delay this launch just slightly, right?
Yeah, it's a new Dragon that, believe it or not, SpaceX decided they wanted to make, because they originally thought that a fleet of 4 was good enough. 4 Crew Dragons. Now they have 5. They built another one because of the need. Because, I mean, you got to end up thinking, like, one of these Dragons has been used for a lot of commercial missions. I mean, their Resilience, I believe, was used for Inspiration 4, Polaris Dawn. Remains to be seen what's going to happen there. But, anytime you get a new one of these outfitted, a month delay is nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That is not a long delay in spaceflight. That's a really short one, if anything. So probably just to check everything out, make sure everything is good. Who knows? Maybe they built in a couple of upgrades. Maybe this capsule ends up being like the Endeavor of Dragon capsules. Ironically, because there's already an Endeavor Dragon. I'm talking Endeavor, like the shuttle. Endeavor was different because it was a newer shovel. Nice. Newer shuttle. I mean, shovels are good too. But so there's probably some design changes made to this. If I had to put my hat into the ring, and not this one, I like this hat. If I had to put my hat into the ring, it's probably something like that. They probably made some iterative upgrades based off of the manufacturing run from the first 4. Probably changed a couple of things, made things a little bit easier, and that's going to take a little bit of extra time.
Yep. Yeah, it's
So-
it's not a major thing. People are, some people are like, oh
Yeah,
no, they're delaying
no
the thing.
problem.
It's not a big deal. And again, the astronauts love it. It's not like we're talking about heat shields or anything. On your screen right now, that's the launch of Starliner from NSF. And I don't know if we want to talk about Starliner at all. I mean, because it kind of falls into why Butch and Sonny are on the ISS still. I don't know that we want to. We flame trenched the death out of that months and months ago, but it's hard not to talk about those issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the future of Starliner, and the whole. We're selling the company, and there's so many things behind there. But I just don't know. Do you guys want to talk about? I don't want to talk about that. Let's move on to something else. Let's do a question. How about a question?
All right.
Yes. Thank you for that. I'm not going to say that. Watch do. I can't. That's impossible for me to say. Thank you for that question. Yes, Sonny is the current commander of the ISS. She moved into that role when Crew 9 rolled in, right? That's
Yep.
When Crew 9 got there, she took over command of the ISS. And Mighty Don, thank you so much for that super chat and gifting those red team memberships.
Yeah,
again,
baby.
we appreciate all of that support. We can't do it without you guys. Yes, I've made an executive decision. It's what I do. Thank you guys so much. So let's go back real quick. We talk about five Crew Dragons, and then we have the Cargo Dragons, but they have tons and tons of boosters, right? So one of the things that kind of dovetails into what we were talking about earlier about EJ's like tons and tons. If you stack them all up, I'm sure it would be multiple tons, more than 2 tons, right? What do you mean Gene wouldn't read that? Of course Gene's man, I'm all over the place. I'm like EJ. It's like,
yeah.
This is what we do. Alex is the only one not moving. The question came up about the cadence of the boosters for Falcon 9. And the question is, I'll put it up here. Thank you, Mighty Unlikely, for this one. When we talked earlier about Arianespace and the difference in ESA and NASA and SpaceX, there's a point where the build cadence is greater than the launch cadence. And when that happened with Falcon 9, I don't know about that, because I'm looking at Starship and I'm thinking that's happening there. The build cadence, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, right? It seems faster than the launch cadence.
Wouldn't it be the other way around?
Well, so now the launch cadence for Falcon 9 feels like it's caught the build cadence, right? Because when you look at Starship, the build cadence, they're building more rockets than they're launching right now. At some point, those are going to overlap because they're going to start launching a lot more rockets like they're doing with Falcon 9. That's the point of this question. The question was it like 4 years ago where that happened?
I'd say 2019 if I had to guess.
It depends on what you mean by build cadence, right? Like if by build cadence you mean that you have the rocket, so to speak, and then you need, like, you're piling up your rockets or something like that, then the build cadence caught up pretty much like within the first few years. I don't think that's ever been a thing with Falcon 9, because they have just launched as soon as they were ready to launch. And yeah, sometimes they had like 2 boosters, especially in 2016 and 2017 when they ramped up for Vandenberg launches, especially with the Iridium launches and everything. But then when they moved into reusability, then the build cadence dropped. And in fact, I believe it was 2017 when it was the maximum number of new boosters that they built. And then I think this year it's been 6 or 7 new boosters that we have seen. We actually have a new one now at McGregor, but that's going to be debuting obviously next year. So like that was years ago, 8 years, 7 years ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago, because the build cadence, it was like maybe 13, 14 boosters maximum, and that's all they did. There was at one point this comment, like I remember back in the day when One Shotwell said, "Oh, our factory is built to, to be able to produce 40 boosters a year." and he was like, "Are you sure?" And that was back when, even though they wanted to do reusability, they probably thought it was not going to be as successful as it is right now, and so they were still saying we're going to be producing many, many, many boosters and everything. That's why I'm a bit skeptical about the whole thing of like, the Star Factory is going to be able to produce one ship every 18 hours or something like that. It's like, maybe you don't need that. Just reuse more ships.
Yeah. We saw a new booster the other day. It was a 1090. Went up for the first time. It was weird seeing a perfectly white booster. We don't see that very often anymore. They're reusing these things left and right. And seeing a new booster, seeing how hard it is to see the frost line on there for one thing. It's fun. I mean, EJ, you've been Twitch streaming and you've been with NSF and you've been watching these things for probably as long as I have, longer than I have. I mean, we don't see new boosters very often.
No. What was your first launch? What was your first Falcon 9 launch that you watched live?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. You were born, I know that.
Nice.
I'm not that old, EJ.
No, I'm not saying you're that old. Dang, man. The first Falcon 9 I watched, or I streamed, I should say, because I've watched a lot of them before that. First Falcon 9 launch that I streamed was Cassiopeia in 2013. It was the first Falcon 9 1.1.
Yeah, the sixth launch of Falcon 9.
Yeah, I've watched every Falcon launch since then. Not all of them live, but most of them live.
I don't know that I can say that. I don't remember all of them, but I know when I'd open YouTube and I'd go to NSF, and like most people do is you just scrub along the bottom till you see the the cloud at the bottom, and then watch it until landing and be like, I've done my rocket nerd for the day. Yay me. So I've seen a lot of them. I've never seen any in person. What'd you say?
What? Really? The watch time. You can't scrub through it. The watch time, dude.
Now I watch them all because I'm watching my friends on the stream now.
All right.
I tried for so long to watch one of these rocket launches. I remember trying to watch EFT1, and yeah, it scrubbed. And then the other day, like the following day when it actually launched, I was not able to watch it. So, and then lots of other launches that I was not able to. And so my first one was SES-9. For everybody that may remember that one, that was the one with multiple scrubs trying to fuel the rocket. Boy, do I remember that.
I don't remember when my first one is. You guys remember the name of the payload? Like, I have no idea. It's like, ooh, rocket launch.
That
Let's
was
go
the
watch it on
22nd
NSF.
launch of, like, I'm looking here at my spreadsheet. That was the 22nd launch of Falcon 9. There's been already more than 400, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen 400, but sometimes it feels like it, especially when EJ says I'm an old man. Thank you guys for the support.
What the heck, man?
Sorry, I'm having way too much fun.
No,
Facebook, thank you so much for that super chat. Better late than never. Bless the trench. We thank you for being here. You're awesome. Wascally Wabbit, couldn't do this without you. Thank you for that super chat as well. $4.99. What are you saying here? More Zoidberg. Say my name.
What is your name, my friend? Wascally Wabbit. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. I can go buy a home now underwater. Thank you.
EJ's taking requests. This is going. Where's Jay when we need him? Where's Kevin when we need him? EJ's taking Zoidberg requests. I love it.
Oh no.
And by the way, we've got people out there gifting super chat. Gifting memberships, gifting Red Team memberships, and so on. And thank you for those. We appreciate it. If you're a recipient of one of those, be sure to say thank you in chat. If you get one of those Red Team memberships, thank the person who gifted it to you. You'll see it scroll by in the YouTube chat. It'll be there. Say thank you. We appreciate that. One of the things we've seen a lot lately, like EJ keeps pointing at the camera, it's you. It's all about you.
That's right, man.
One of the things that we've seen a lot lately is these direct-to-cell satellites being launched more frequently. And I think they finished the first shell. They're going to be launching more, but we're starting to see that roll out. I know here in the States, T-Mobile has like a 1-year exclusive or something like that. But the technology is kind of around the world now. I mean, it's coming, and they're allowing people to text now. And EJ, what do you think about this? Is this like the next level of technology from Starlink and direct to cell? What are your thoughts on this?
Hey, that's a pretty sweet piece of kit, man. You have satellite that's what, I don't know, the size of maybe a small automobile, and maybe a small flattened automobile that can communicate directly with a cell phone. That's a big deal. Starlink's original mission, guys, is to service underserviced areas. It's supposed to capture a market where there is, quote unquote, no market for a ground-based internet service provider, right? That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to service underprivileged areas where it doesn't make sense for the ISP to build infrastructure out there. But I mean, we're way past that at this point. This is tapping into markets. We're not just talking about, servicing, underprivileged areas, right? This is growing. This is growing to a point where you're making new markets for as a potential cell phone provider and as an internet service provider. Guys, if I had a Starlink dish and I was out in the middle of Yellowstone National Forest, with a laptop, we could make this happen. As long as I had power, I could stream from there. We're talking. It's gotten to a point where we're not talking about underserviced areas anymore. We're talking about growing markets, making markets where markets don't even exist. I think direct to cell is part of doing that. And I've always said it, like, if Starlink captures like 1% of global telecommunications, like, they're not trying to take down a big ISP, but if they even got like 1% of like global like bandwidth there, you trillionaire. I mean, SpaceX ain't gonna need to do external missions anymore. Let me put it to you like that. That'll fund Starship clean through for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it is the next step. I think, they started, right? They started with servicing underprivileged areas, and now they're moving into growing that market, which is unbelievable. It's wild stuff.
And I'm with you. I think the technology is insane. I remember, I'm gonna show my age here, but I remember when video calls were a thing that were only in movies. We would go to the movies and they would make these super futuristic video calls. And here we are today, being able to talk across oceans in real time, and people in Antarctica and underserved markets, like you said, they can whip out their phone, they can FaceTime someone on the other side of the planet with minimal delay. That's a mind-blowing technology. And like you said, being able to connect directly to a satellite from your mobile device, that is a game changer.
Yep.
We used to call it cell phone for a reason. And a lot of, young people might not know that you go from cell tower to cell tower to cell tower. And I remember when you would go and the phone would stop and then it would come back every time you change cells. It's ridiculous. Now we have satellites flying over our head in low Earth orbit, low latency, high bandwidth satellites. I know Alex is talking, so they're making jokes about my age in the back channel somewhere. Alex is like, I don't remember any of that.
I'm seeing a new poll in chat.
Oh, okay. I'm not paying attention to that one. But it's the direct to cell technology is just crazy. The pace of this technology, in my opinion, is just phenomenal. Like my grandkids will not know anything but this technology and forward. And New Zealand is actually rolling this out. I know T-Mobile is rolling this out to start like beta testing and text messaging and things like that. When, Alex, do you think we're going to get to a point when this technology is so proven, like whip out the little magic crystal ball? And when do you think, he loves it when people ask him questions about the future, make a prediction. I mean, when do you think this technology is going to be, this is just the way it is, and these towers can come down?
Well, yeah, I don't think cell towers will go away. They'll just probably going to be, because first of all, you need to evolve the technology, right? We have different frequencies. Like over the years, we have used different bands and software and everything and transmissions and whatnot. one of the things though, so right now, direct to cell from SpaceX, from Starlink, it's very limited, right? It's just, messaging pretty much. They have tried some data, very, very limited. That's obviously, their own experimentation stuff, of course, where they can really tell the satellites, hey, concentrate and, actually do all of this stuff and everything. Because these satellites, so they are based on the Starlink V2 Mini bus, right? And so they have this deployable antenna. They also have the LT antenna as well on the bottom. So they have a very big area, but it's probably not big enough to be able to provide all of that bandwidth to get enough signal and power down to the ground, to the cell phones, right? And so you don't have that ability of getting up to the point of like voice and data just yet. That's gonna be with a bigger Starlink satellites on Starship. Those hopefully will also have deployable antenna, and then you have the regular base of the satellite as well with an LTE and everything as well. So with that larger area, you can get a lot more of that out. One of the problems though that they have, and that was sort of recently on that approval that they got, was they cannot raise the power levels too much, because then they start having one of the problems when you try to beam this down. It's a whole physics problem, but it just sort of spills over into other frequencies when you try to raise the power levels of your satellite, especially in these very narrow bands where you have other cell phone operators very nearby on your frequencies and such and whatnot. And so one of the problems that happens is that if you try to increase the power levels, you start interacting with the other frequencies, and you can interfere with other operators of cell phone. And so that's one of the things that we're not allowed to do, to increase the power levels. They think they might get away, like around this physics problem with a larger satellite. We'll see. But that's one of the things that, for example, another company, AST Space Mobile, they've been trying to get around that. They have an even larger antenna. They have their own modulation as well, which is, again, very complex physics problem and whatnot. But they have been able to get around that as well. And, the future that I see is we're going to see a heavy competition. I don't know if we're going to get to the point of like getting rid of cell towers, but it's going to be a lot more easier to just connect with the world. And in any case, like if you don't have a cell phone, or like your cell phone cannot reach a Starlink satellite, DTC satellite, you can just have an antenna. Like the antenna, if you have power to power that, it'll be able to pick up the regular Starlink satellites everywhere in the world. And so, you cannot have it on the phone, but just carry your antenna with you.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex, you got any games on your
Let
phone?
me think some folks here. Word from Ort has become a Capcom member. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. That becoming a member of the channel helps us out, allows us to bring you all the great content from all of these launches, and you see them on NSF constantly. Mighty Don, thank you. 10 more Red Team memberships, gifting those out. Thank you very, very much. And EJAM, coming to you for this one. Dimez Recon, thank you for that. $10 super chat says, all the old MK1 through SN10 live shows this week, and I love how NSF family has grown in just 5 years to the Space Channel. Also, EJ, F-15 is the GOAT.
F4. I'm sorry, F4. Because Mach 2.2.
Go ahead.
No, you, F-16. That's what you're going to say, huh?
Well, I was going to say I'm an F-16 fan. I'm an F-15 fan. I'm an F-14 fan. I like all aviation.
Yeah, no, me too. But I like the F4 because I like going fast. Okay, and the F4 goes fast. Now, don't get me wrong. The F-15 goes fast too, but the F4 was going fast way before the F-15 was.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Machine gun, don't need that. Faster than you. Faster.
That's true. Oh. You got the bell. All right. I got a lot of. I have a ton of questions that I want to get to, and I mean a ton, like 2,000 pounds or 1,000 kilograms. Right? We're going to do this lightning round. Here we go. If you put a question in chat, we're going to read it. Here we go. Ready? EJ, when is
I'm
the
ready.
2025 calendar coming from NSF? Go.
Soon.
It's like, what a weird question.
Soon.
All right.
Soon trademark.
Huh? What? Yeah, Adrian's not on this flame dredge. Hang on. Let's see. We're gonna come down here. Did you guys know, Alex? Did you know that SpaceX caught a booster? Yes or no?
Yeah, they caught a booster. It was not this one
when?
though. 'Cause
Just saying.
It actually, hang on. Yeah, it exploded with an S. Exploded.
It exploded.
Exploded.
EJ,
Yes.
did you see Japan's Kairos 2 rocket test?
Yeah.
It did a curveball.
Yeah, I saw it. I saw it. And then we didn't. Then we saw it, and then we didn't again. No, that Kairos launch was something, but it didn't make it. It didn't make it. Let's just say that now, because this is the lightning round. I'm not sure we have any background footage. I'll give you guys a quick spiel. Kairos, the Kairos launch number 2 is a Japanese private space flight company that's working. Kairos 1 launched, got about I don't know, maybe 200-300 feet off the pad, had an observation on its SRB, and then RTLS'd right after that. Not the good kind, though. So this was their return to flight after failed flight 1, and this one also was not going to space that day. We don't really know what happened, but the rocket was going up, and then it just decided to take a right. And then a little ways after that, it was doing a curble where it was just kind of
Hard-wheeling.
Yeah. It was. Here we go.
Life imitates art, dude. But yeah, Kairos was.
You said
crazy.
the word footage.
Oh.
It did. It was kind of on a curve. It was doing its thing. I know this is a lightning round, but yeah, there's the rocket. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. Okay. Amtrak wants to know, Gene, are you 100 years old? No, I am not 100 years old. I promise you, I'm not. I am less than 100. Great shot. I love this shot when I was watching.
Yeah,
this.
no, it's beautiful.
We did not get to
Everything
see
looks
that
kinda
shot
here.
on the first flight because it didn't even clear the hill.
Yeah, it didn't get that far. No, everything looks really, really
It's
good.
funny
here.
how
That-
both times it got destroyed by the flight termination system, although, you know.
So there's Mach 1 right there. And then I noticed that if you look at it, the thrust the thrust vector control starts to
you kind of want to,
and then all of a sudden,
you're like,
oh, there it
no,
goes.
no,
Yep,
that
taking
way,
a right.
that way.
You're
like, what?
It did a Starship Flight 1. It lost
That's not
TVC.
supposed to do that at all.
It made a right turn at Albuquerque.
Yeah, it did. You're supposed to take a left. It's not great. I don't think that's supposed to do that. But if you notice, you can see that whatever's happening is some type of compounding. PID. It could be PIDs, but whatever it is, it's compounding because the thrust is going back and forth, and it's trying to correct. Every time it tries to correct, it overcompensates and corrects more. So it seems like it's coming into like some kind of feedback loop. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't know. We don't know what happened. This was very recent, but
yeah,
you could see the thrust vector control wiggling like that is not what it's supposed to do. It eventually compounds to the point where it starts doing cartwheels here in a second.
Yeah, because I think that's also
suboptimal.
When there, it's starting now.
Yep.
It starts doing like this because I think the motor is like shutting down. It's burning out, and it's also the time because it lost control way earlier than the time that it was supposed to burn out. But when it then burned out, it started cartwheeling and moving around and everything.
Yeah. I mean, I looked
There it
into this
is.
a little bit, guys. Once again, we don't. I don't mean to laugh. It's so messed up. There's so many people that work on these things. It's bad to laugh, but
I mean, it's fun to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I looked into this a little bit, and that me and my chat were talking about this when we watched this launch. It looks like wind shear. That looks like vertical wind shear to me. And then we went and checked, and there was like 200 mile an hour vertical wind shear for upper level winds. So, guys, a little thing on upper level winds, real quick, just in case you're not well versed in this. So, it's not just what direction the wind is blowing or the wind speed. It's the difference between altitudes in speed. That's vertical wind shear. So, if you are at like 20,000 feet and there's like 20 mile an hour winds going, out of the south, right? It's not a big deal. And if you go to 30,000 feet and then you got 200 mile an hour winds coming out of the north, right? It's basically going to be like hitting a brick wall, or at the very least, like skipping a rock over water, which is why I think the thing took a huge right-hand turn there. If I had to put my money on it, I'd say wind, but I could be wrong. We should, the right thing to do is to wait until the people that are working on this actually give us an anomaly report, if that ever happens. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that it cartwheeling out of control like that is not intended behavior,
I would design a rocket like that was cartwheel out of control. Yeah, that'd be fun to watch. Like we were kids. Okay, back to the lightning round.
Let's do it.
Alex, what is the name of the curse that has been cast upon Butch and Sonny?
I don't know. It's probably I don't know. It's been a while since we've had this sort of issue with like astronauts staying. I mean, I say a while. It's probably been like 2 or 3 years ago when we had also Soyuz stranding an astronaut and a cosmonaut on the ISS. But yeah, it's not a curse. It's just
Nah.
things just
It's a thing that happens
things
in
happen.
Spaceflight. That's exactly right.
It's the PG version.
Michael Cavillo, thank you for that 1999 super chat. Thank you, NSF. I prefer the F4, the good old Phantom. Star Hex, I like that one. That one's good. I like the Star Hex. Go ahead. EJ, you were going to say? Was that an F stop on a camera or the Phantom? Yeah. Well. Okay, next question. EJ, this is to you. What additional data?
I fixed it.
This is a good question. What additional data can they get from a longer duration of their stay from a result of their mandatory overtime on the ISS? Like, what are they now like? Oh, we were supposed to be there 8 days. Now we're going to be there 6 months. Oh no, you're going to be there 10 months. Do you think the NASA doctors are like, ooh, hey, we could do that one experiment we've been talking about for long duration spaceflight?
I mean, it's really up to the flight surgeons. It's up to the flight surgeons, which are basically the doctors and whomever, obviously like you have your personal physician when you're an astronaut, right? Like it's up to them. I don't know, kind of on a case-to-case basis. There's no shortage of work on the ISS, though. I don't think they're necessarily going to be like, oh, you're staying up for an extra 7 months. Let's do a medical experiment. All right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But, you got to remember that Butch and Sonny were roped into the Crew 9 crew. So they were doing what Crew 9 was already going to be doing had the 2 astronauts that they subbed out were going to go up there and do. They're doing those experiments. They just basically just transferred the work. In terms of like the downtime between Crew 8 and Crew 9 when they were there, they did a lot of maintenance on the station. And like I said, there's always something to do. The station's super old. It needs a lot of work. It's a lot of work to keep that thing spick and span, So, yeah, there's never a shortage of things to do up there.
Yeah. Alex, one for you. Do you think Starship can launch, let's see, all 25? Let me get this right. Do you think Starship can launch all the 25 flights the FAA granted them? I don't know if they've given to them the 25 yet, have they?
No.
Yeah, they haven't.
They have not. They're working on it, and the environmental assessment should be wrapping up so right now we are in the public comment period. That's going to wrap up mid-January, and then, there'll be another couple of months as well where the FAA will go through the comments, review that, they'll see, whether or not there's been something that escaped them during, the review of the environmental assessment, and then they'll do what it's called record of decision, which is, either, go back and redo your thing, or here's your finding of no significant impact, which is fancy. But they're not. I'm just gonna say this straight away. They're not gonna be doing 25 flights from Starbase next year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
There's no way.
Not gonna happen. No.
And as
All
I
right,
always say,
lightning round.
prove me wrong, SpaceX.
Yeah, exactly. We want to be there for every one of them. This one, I'll take this one. Who's paying the overtime for Butch and Sonny? That's the American taxpayer. We're all paying for that because it comes out of the NASA budget. So not Alex. Let's put it that way.
Not me.
Okay, Luke Skywalker. EJ, this one's to you. Does vertical wind shear affect the rocket because it's flying horizontally?
It depends on the direction. I mean, vertical wind shear doesn't play into account if you're flying horizontally. It depends on your climb rate, right? It depends on the climb rate and depends on the direction. That Kairos rocket was still very much going up. That's usually what your first stage is for, going up. Your second stage is for going fast, right? So, obviously it didn't get that far, right? Still going vertically. Now, direction matters a lot too, but it's really about the difference between the different altitudes. And that you have to be going vertically to do that. If you're going horizontal, by the time the rocket's really going horizontal, there's not really an atmosphere to get in the way. You don't really need to worry about that. Mostly it's during first stage ascent where you really need to worry about wind. I was talking about this a little bit earlier in the day on my stream, like about wind shear and how it works. And I don't really like bringing up STS-51L, but wind shear was a problem for Challenger right before. Vertical wind shear was a big problem for it because it hit a cracked O-ring, right? Like this stuff, and it was still very much flying vertical, right? It really is more for the lower parts of the uphill ride, not necessarily the upper parts where you'd be flying horizontally, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you wouldn't really have to worry about wind shear when you're flying horizontally, because if the rocket's flying horizontally, it's either some kind of plane, right? I was about to say Skylon, I wish, or HOTOL or something. And we don't, there's nothing really like that. I mean, I suppose if you're going to fly it like a plane, you'd have to probably kind of pay attention to that stuff, but no, I don't think so. On the whole, probably not, no.
Alex, I got a fun one for you. Car Destroyer wants to know how many bananas could fit in a Starship payload bay.
A lot.
I mean, it's the
My
flame
answer.
trench, right? EJ's got a banana.
Really
He's banana ready.
Oh my gosh.
I came
Banana
prepared.
math. My daughter was trying to figure out how many bananas. We were trying to figure out the tall banana for scale. How tall is a Starship? Speaking of Starship, let's get into some Starship news. Because we got a FAA license. Who wants to talk about this one? Raise your hand.
I can do that.
Alex. Okay, so we're going to take a nap. Alex will talk Starship. I'm kidding.
But
Go, Alex.
look at EJ. Yeah, so we have had this week the license approval for Flight 7. It was modified to accommodate some of the few changes for Flight 7. Block 2 ship, of course. There's a little thing as well on I don't remember exactly, it's related with tracking assets and whatnot for Starship. Other than that, it's pretty much the same same profile for Flight 7. We're not expecting anything fancy new in terms of where it's gonna launch from, where it's gonna land, both stages, right? Whatever happens in between, well, we'll get to that when that happens, because the FAA just says that it's going to be a launch from Boca Chica, Texas. You can see there a return to the launch site of the Super Heavy booster rocket for a catch attempt by the launch tower and a water landing of the Starship vehicle in the Indian Ocean west of Australia. This is going to be a suborbital launch. There's not going to be it's gonna go to orbit, and no, it's gonna be a suborbital launch, just like the previous ones. However, if you've seen Starbase Live recently, they did a test of one engine on Ship 33, and this could mean multiple things, right? The ship for this flight is Ship 33. One of them is that there's not going to be anything fancy on Flight 7. They're not, like, they could just not do any relight or anything. But because Flight 7, Ship 33, is the first Block 2 vehicle, Block 2 has a redesigned header tank system, not just one of the tanks, like both tanks have been redesigned and everything, the transfer lines and everything, all that has been redesigned. And so, you know, it makes sense. It's redesigned. You want to test that. On the other hand, it could also be that Flight 7 will be just like Flight 6, where they went into this suborbital trajectory and then they did this little burn about 37 minutes into the flight where they, you know, tested an in-space relight of one of the Raptor engines. We don't know if that's going to happen. That's not necessarily on the license. Again, the license just covers what launches, what lands, and where, right? Like, they're launching from Boca Chica. They're landing both back at, like, the booster is going to be either at the Gulf on an abort scenario or on the launch tower for a catch attempt. And, you know, the ship, as it says, it's going to go down to the Indian Ocean, of course. All of these details about the launch license process and what has changed and whatnot, we got a lot more in detail on the latest video that we put out for this. You know, there's 10-minute video that you can watch with all of these details, very well explained by Ryan. But that's the gist of it. Like, it's just gonna be pretty much the same as Flight 6 and Flight 5, to be fair. Just launching from Boca Chica, ship goes to the Indian Ocean, booster comes back, or tries to come back, and whatever happens in between, we don't know. Like, for all we know, they could also test the payload bay door, because it's a new design as well. They could just fly, open the door, maybe deploy a banana, who knows, right? and for all we know, they could do that. But you know, the FAA has not said anything. In fact, I think maybe if we can bring that up, it says something along the lines of, like, ask SpaceX for more details or something like that. So, like, yeah, please contact SpaceX for information about its planned launch date. Yeah, that's another thing. We don't know when it's gonna happen. So it could happen whenever, right? As long as they are able to close the road and everything, it should be happening whenever. Both vehicles are on their respective megabays. Ship 33 on Megabay 2, Booster 14 on Megabay 1. They have completed their engine testing, all of their cryo testing and everything is completed. They're obviously being prepared now for flight, of course.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about that for a second, Alex, because you bring up a good point. And Riddy 5 wants to know, could they launch earlier? Could they launch before January 11th, since now they have a launch license? You said that. What do you think of the odds of that?
Well, right now, you know, January 11 is this date that we got to know before. So we got to know about it after Flight 6, but it was filed in this paperwork to allow NASA to be able to fly in special darkness conditions to to Australia and everything. So they talk about all of this, of course, and we don't really know if that's still holding, because that document is actually from before Flight 6, and since then, over a month ago, we have had no updates, right? Like, other than Elon with the usual Flight 7 soon or something like that. And it's like, but how soon is soon, right? So we don't know. We could speculate based on the previous launch. I think it was like 3 weeks since static firing to a launch. So it could be maybe 3 weeks from now, which would be the same week of January 11th, to be fair. Like, say it is that week, then sure, it might be a few days before, might be a few days after. We really don't know, right? And one of the problems of them being in the mega base, it's like, we cannot see. We have not yet invented X-ray vision, long distance X-ray vision.
Yeah. We did see some of that testing at Massey's. I want to bring EJ on this topic. It looked like 33. They either tested 33 a different way than they have previously because it is the first Block 2 to fly, plan to fly. But then they did a single engine. They did the static fire that is a single engine, or they had an issue with some tanking. What do you think happened on 33's time at Massey's, EJ?
I don't think that the testing is necessarily because of a Block 2 Starship. I mean, it could be. It could be. They could be weeding out some changes. As Elon says, and pretty much everybody else that works at SpaceX that posts on X, like there's thousands of changes to this thing. So it could be a bunch of small things, but doing all the engines and then doing a single engine, I don't think is a coincidence, Gene. I really don't. Yeah. I think that single engine is to test the deorbit. It's the deorbit burn. They're just making sure that that's all copacetic, that everything's working there. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. I really don't think it could be anything else, right? Like, what else could that be? I'm trying to sit here like rifling through my head. I'm like, what else could that be? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, they fueled the vehicle over the static fire trench, and then didn't static fire it. So was that planned? Was that was it an abort? Like I don't know. And then they detanked it. They tanked it again later. Then they did the static fire. It just seemed odd to me that SpaceX is moving so rapidly, and then they have this like, hey, let's hold off, let's detank it. Something went wrong, or it was planned. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, man. Like if they redesigned something in there with the plumbing, and we know that we know that the plumbing is redesigned on those Block 2s. It uses multiple. I don't know what they're called. Like I don't know what it's called to piss people off. Like
it's Jack says transfer tubes,
down doers,
and then the other one is downcomer.
So it has different plumbing, dude. So if it was me, you change something, you might probably want to make sure that your down doer,
your down tuber. Your
Glenny Cummers or whatever, those things are working correctly. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a question from Mr. Goose. Hang on a second, Alex. I want to get to this question because it relates to this. Why and when did Starship header tank move up? We know that had to do with weight and balance and things like that. And then why does the booster have a LOX landing tank, but not a methane one? Is that? Yeah, go, Alex.
I'm going to tackle the down tuber
previous
thing.
one, the down tuber, downcomer transfer tube.
It's transfer tube, by the way. And so they have like dedicated transfer tubes so the transfer tube is to transfer methane from the methane tank down to the engines. They have one for the center 3. Essentially, it sort of spreads out. There's a manifold at the bottom, and it shares all of that methane with the 3 center engines, and then each of the vacuum engines has its own transfer tube. And in fact, all of these transfer tubes and manifolds are upgraded from version 1. They are vacuum insulated, so they have vacuum jacketing instead of just being a tube, which is very important if you want to stay in orbit for a long time. That's one of the things that Block 2 will be able to do very soon. But going back to, when, that's easy. That was with Ship 20. It's actually there in the Rocket Garden. It's the one that's sort of presenting the heat shield to the right. The other one is Ship 32. So you have actually the first and the last of the Block ones in that view. But so it was moved. So the methane header tank, the ship LOX header tank was always on the tip of the nose cone, even way back to SN8, which was the first one that was that had a proper header tank at the top. And the methane header tank was sort of at the bottom of the main tank for SN8, 9, 10, until 15 essentially. For Ship 20 though, it was the first one to carry vacuum engines, and as you said, it's all down to the balancing of the mass. And so because they added more engines at the bottom, they needed that mass to go up for the methane header tank to go up to the nose cone. And that's why they have there. Now they have integrated that better. It's a much better system. Even the geometry of the sump, how it needs to be collected, and then there's a transfer tube and everything that goes down to the engines, all that shenanigans. So all of that has been improved on Block 2 as well. So all of that is new manufacturing, new design, geometries, you name it. So I can see the reason, why not? Let's test that kind of stuff. The booster has a LOX landing tank, and this one is down to geometry. Falcon 9 also has a very similar one, but not for LOX. It has for the RP1. And the reason is because it's the bottom tank. So one of the problems that you have is that the bottom tank often has the own inlets to the engines. So in the case of Super Heavy, you have the outer 20 engines are connected to the outer rim, so to speak, of the bottommost ring of the booster. Whereas on the center engines, so you can see here, in fact, those here. So these center engines, these 13 center engines are directly mounted to the dome on the aft cap, that it's called. Other people call it the thrust puck. That's for the ship. That's not for the booster. The booster is the aft cap. But never mind. So the aft cap has those 13 connections for those 13 engines. And so what happens is that if you have here the tank, and you have very little amount of liquid oxygen or whatever fluid you have on your bottom tank, and your booster is coming in for a re-entry and a landing, it's going to be, sloshing around on your tank. That fluid, it's going to be sloshing around. What happens is that fluid, if it sloshes around, it might just not cover your ports for the engines to get it, in and use it. And so what you need, it's something that is thinner, right? And that it can go up. And so it can distribute that through manifolds to all of the engines. In the case of Falcon 9, they have a very similar thing as well, to be able to distribute that to the center engine for the landing burn. Because again, if your bottom tank has that fluid moving around very low levels, again, it's like single digits of percentage of volume. It's a very low level of the fluid. It can be so low that those vibrations and whatnot will not allow the fluid to cover the inlets of the engines, so you need a header tank. That's why the liquid oxygen, which is the bottom tank, needs that header tank for the booster. The top tank, though, there's a long transfer tube that already does that constraining of the fluid. It can, like, if you can imagine the top tank, it's sort of like this at the bottom. Sure, it might, go like this and whatnot, but it needs to literally, since there's a very small sump at the bottom, that's a very small opening at the bottom, the booster will need to do such crazy acrobatics to be a problem. That's why the ship does have 2 header tanks, because the top tank even has that problem as well, whereas, on the booster, it does not do these flips and, it turns 180 degrees or anything like that. Doesn't have that problem, but it's down to the geometry and the trajectory that the booster does when it comes back down to a landing. The problem is on the bottom tank, which is where the engines are attached to, whereas the top tank does not have that problem. You have that transfer tube, those manifolds that go out to each engine, so you can avoid that problem easily.
Yeah. I can imagine in the back studio where Jay is producing this, his finger is hovering over the Alex timer button. He's just waiting to just smash the timer.
I wish
I
could have props for this, because I really, I don't know, I have here.
Yeah, it's like there's a booster
liquid.
And there's the thing and
Yeah, but you imagine that and you're like trying to imagine how the liquid goes into the outlets and everything. It's like, that's a very complicated thing, and one of the things that will probably be a problem for a lot of other rockets. And I'm really curious how other people are going to be solving that. Maybe we'll have to ask, or maybe that's secret sauce for them, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what they say. We'll see. That'll be a good engineering conversation when we get to it. Astro Knucklehead, thank you again. Another $5 Canadian. Just had to give Eric Frazier a Merry Christmas kick. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. And also Blake Alexander gifted more Red Team memberships, 5 Red Team memberships. And again, if you're a recipient of one of those, be thankful. Look, he's got a visual aid. EJ's got you covered. Where'd you get that? I have this one. Hang on. Now, don't make any jokes in chat, but mine's a bit wee. He's got a big starship. I've got a little one. You do have the stickers. Oh, you look at those. Those are awesome. I haven't gotten mine yet. That's cool. Yeah, those are cool. And those are available at shop.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. Oh, jeez.
Oh, you're muted.
So, yeah, I was muted on vMix. Sorry. So, yeah, the ones that are shiny, the ones with the Flight 5 and 6, and also the NSF patches, and also the ones for the engines. But yeah, I don't have a prop here. I should probably. When are we gonna do another plushie? We should ask.
Oh, okay. All right. Hang on. You're gonna make me do this, EJ.
Don't play this game with
down
me.
The shuttle. I only do this on special occasions. I'm gonna show off for a minute. This is actually one of the shuttles given to one of the engineers that worked on the shuttle program. It has the desk stand that sits on it. I am not the original recipient of this. I am not a shuttle engineer by any stretch of the imagination. This was actually found by a friend of mine, and it used to sit in the museum. And they were moving the display, and he said, "Hey, I know a guy who wants that." So this is actually really cool. It was one of the original desk props that they gave the engineers. Actually, really cool. Yeah.
I don't think I have something that cool, but I got this.
That's awesome. Dude, that's so cool.
I'm just saying, I got this.
Right.
It's not a
shuttle. We have a new NSF show coming where we show off all of our space toys. They're gonna make that happen. Space nerd toy thing. I got Legos. Everybody's got the Legos.
I got one more.
All right. I have a question for you, EJ. Starship related. We got a couple more minutes. Let's keep talking about this. I want to talk about the. Let's see. Which one of these do I want to do? The catch. And this is not going to be a Flight 7, maybe even an 8 question. But we're talking about the. Peter Arnold wanted to know about the angle, wondering about the catch profile for the ship as it was coming in. Kind of an over-the-shoulder thing. Now, to be fair, we don't know
over the shoulder
if SpaceX is going to try to catch on Tower A or B because they are oriented in different directions. So I'm going to throw this one to EJ and just have him postulate on what he thinks that they're going to do when they go for a catch.
In his case, it's also going to be over the shoulder because the chopsticks are behiing him.
It's the chopsticks are over his shoulder, yeah.
Yeah, I think they'll. Let's see. I mean, that over-the-shoulder thing is going to happen because both the chopsticks are kind of facing a little ways off from what a re-entry trajectory would be. But you got to remember that Starship could do some kind of heading alignment. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little bit weird to kind of ponder this, but I think it could turn around and come in like the shuttle if needed. Either that or it's gonna have to go out over the ocean and then like flip around or something. Because it's facing the wrong direction when it comes in. I don't know if it's got. I mean, I think if I had to say like when a catch is gonna happen, I'd probably say Flight 8, but that really depends on how Flight 7 goes. If Flight 7 goes good, then we could see one as early as Flight 8. Sorry about the webcam, guys. I'm just trying to figure some stuff out. Anyway,
can you do the whole thing with a toy that you have?
It's like
how will they catch it?
with
All
your
right.
fingers like that.
So the way that Starship sits has the windward side facing the tower, like this. So if Starship is re-entering, it's gonna come into Boca Chica like this, and the chopsticks are gonna be facing this way. So it's kind of, this is the over shoulder thing that the guy was talking about. Like it's gonna have to come in and come back and get caught like that. The other thing that it could do is kind of fly around and then just come in and land.
I mean, that would be cool.
You know, I think a heading alignment maneuver probably would be something more in the cards, I guess.
Yeah, my thinking is
which
that
would make sense.
my thing is more like, when it flips, it needs to like flip back, so you can just back up to the tower. But that's my thinking. We'll see. Hopefully, we see it on the following flight with Ship 35. We'll see.
I mean, it's going to be in orbit for a
34.
while. It's going to be up. It's going to be up there for a while, so that's going to change stuff. Wait, we had a question earlier on, I don't know, one of the launches, one of the streams we did earlier about whether launching from Boca Chica and then catching the booster in Florida, or launching in Boca Chica and catching the Starship in Florida, if that's a thing. Starship could do it. Just wait around for the right orbital trajectories and make small maneuvers on orbit potentially. But they were saying Starship just can't get there. That it's designed to be an RTLS booster. So we could see that. And, speaking of 39A, we have news, right, Alex?
Yeah, this week. So, well, first of all, that's the status right now of 39A. This is a live shot of Launch Complex 39A. They have already cut away that liquid oxygen tank. They were dismantling that over the last few weeks. We covered that in our recent Starbase, not Starbase, excuse me, on our recent KSC flyover. But just to update on the status of that tank, it's gone. They have also started working. At least I've seen them working on the chopsticks, also on the cable tray for the chopsticks. That's interesting. You can see there's some plastic covers there. One of the things that you don't see at Starbase is they do not work during the night. So there's currently, I don't see at least a lot of work right now. And it's, like it's 6:38. Yeah. So they are not working right now at 39A, at least with, the big cranes, all of the lights and whatnot, as we see at Starbase. But a place where they may be working 24/7 soon will be Roberts Road, also in Florida. That's because recently Space Florida had a meeting where they talked about Project Codename Hinton. And it says it involves high volume production facility, high bay, and related infrastructure. Julie attended the meeting where they talk about this Project Hinton. And she says that the timeline is rapid development starting in January, lasting 12 to 18 months. And although SpaceX was not named, the planning matches Roberts Road development plans. And that is precisely one of the other things that we've seen recently. They have started clearing out that north expansion of Roberts Road, which we also covered on the flyover. But, since then, there's been a lot more clearing as well. We've been keeping an eye on that. And, on the new year, we're going to cover that with another flyover, of course. And one of the things, it's this Project Hinton. I believe Harry looked that up, and I think it's sort of related with like AI or something. And, Elon has been, very closely, with AI stuff and whatnot. So, it matches because a very, rapid expansion with hundreds of employees and timeline of 12 to 18 months. Sounds familiar, right? That kind of sounds like the time that it will take for a star factory to pop up at Florida. So, yeah.
That's interesting that you talked about. I didn't even notice that Starbase, they work 24/7, but at KSC, it's during the day. And by the way, guys, you can always watch that. You can go to Space Coast Live here at NSF and Starbase Live. And don't forget McGregor Live if you want to see some cool testing. EJ's got a piece of history in his hand, apparently. He was playing with a piece of history. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's the. It's not real. It looks so good though. I love it. I don't have one of those, but I do have a question for you regarding something, because if we're talking about catching potentially catching the Starship on Flight 8, and of course this will be Block 2. They did do the heat shield changes. That's why I was coming to you regarding that, because that's a change in the flight profile from 7, right? They're going to need a completely new launch license, aren't they? Or a major modification to the current launch license.
Yeah. Sorry about the mute, guys. This is fake. This is 3D printed. That's what I was saying. It's not real. It's not real. And anyway, so change in launch license. Yeah, absolutely. If they're going to go, whenever they decide to go for a catch attempt is when they're going to need a revamp to that license. Because remember, these launch licenses are about public safety. And I mean, I'm pretty sure adding, landing that big, gigantic tank Starship, having it fly over populated areas and then try to come down, even over the shoulder, heading alignment, whatever. Pretty sure whatever public safety endangerment there is going to be different than a previous flight. So yeah, they probably will. Whenever they try to do that catch, they're probably going to have to take a little look in there. And check it. And
we're going to have to go through the environmental, and I mean, there's a whole process, and those of us who've been watching this for a while, there's a whole process you go through. It could take some time between Flight 7, and again, we still don't know when that is, early January, we hope, if the stars align, and we go for that landing in the Indian Ocean, then potentially Flight 8 for a catch. RC Horseman, thank you so much. Gifting more, 20 Red Team memberships.
My buddy.
Give that guy a round of applause. That's awesome.
Dude, I might, for 20, I might have to go do a science experiment here real quick as a bonus for bonus content.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Follow EJ. Watch EJ. That's
No, I'm talking about right now.
Uh-oh. Right now?
Right now, dude. Might have to. I don't know, chat. What say you?
What say you? I like how he says that. What say you? I'm going to be watching This Week in Spaceflight. That's what I'm going to be doing here in, a little bit. Because that's coming up next. Don't miss that on NSF. Thanks, guys, for all the questions. We have a lot. And what are we talking? Oh, B-15. Wait a minute. Alex.
Yeah.
We have some cryo testing.
We were talking about Flight 8, right?
Yeah.
That's booster 15. As you can see, it is right now on the cryo stand, they call it cryo stand. It's actually the thrust simulator stand. It's just also the place where they do cryo testing, of course. That's going to be for Flight 8. So booster 14, ship 33 on Flight 7. That's the one coming up. But of course, if you watch last week's Starbase update, I made a very, because I was the writer for that one, I wrote the script, and I made a very, huge emphasis on the fact that, sure, we're looking at ship 33, booster 14, Flight 7 is coming up, but they want to launch 25 times, right? It's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But if they want to, get anywhere close to it, they really need to keep up the pace, right? And speed up the tempo. And that means booster 15 and ship 34 will have to roll out for cryo testing soon. And I made that point. We saw some signs that maybe those vehicles were going to be rolling soon. We talk about that on this week's Starbase update. It's a new one being ready for next week. Hopefully the last one of 2024. And I made the case, watch out, because we could see these rolling out maybe before the end of the year for cryo testing. And lo and behold, we have booster 15 on that thrust simulator stand getting ready for rollout to masses to be able to be, cryo tested and proof tested. And, same thing, like ship 34 might be next. Like, to just be few days, like maybe we'll see both at the the cryo, because they have 2 cryo stands if I'm not mistaken, so they could be able in theory to do both at the same time, in which case it will be quite a sight to see both the 2 vehicles for Flight 8 there. That's one of the things, like they need to do the cryo test now as soon as possible, and once we get to Flight 7 to that, they need to have already the engines installed and have that static fire testing like within a few days or weeks of that flight, so that flight 8 can come up very, very closely after, very shortly after.
Yeah. And if you're like me, you're glued to Starbase Live and you're watching this stuff. Also, I mean, this week in Spaceflight coming up next after this, and then the Starbase updates, the dailies. You can join Doss and he'll listen to the commentary, and his dad jokes are always a lot of fun when he does those. There's a great shot of there's some multicam action. I love that stuff. This was a lot of fun. We want to thank some folks for their support. I want to thank WD Hokey 13. Thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Really, really appreciate you guys for doing that. Being a member of NSF is just, it's the best. You get a lot of great behind the scenes content, and then at certain levels, Capcom, things like that, access to our member Discord, and we love hanging out with you guys. It's a lot of fun. Astro95, $5 super chat. Thank you. Here we go. Flight 7 question is January 11th. Is that date referring to the local time zone? Of course, that's, we're talking about Starbase, Texas here. What is this? Imaging it's on Perth? What is this question? Local time zone for the airborne imaging operations at Perth. Okay, we got that from the NASA request to fly their plane without lights, right? So they could image the Starship on re-entry during peak heating. Yes or no? That's what I remember, right, guys? That's where we got that January 11th date?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's
Thank you for that super chat, Astro. Yeah, that's where we got that. And again, stay right here because you can go to NASASpaceflight.com and read all the latest news, and if we get any updates, that's where they're going to be. Also, Kevin Odom, thank you so much. A new PadRet member. New member. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. This has been a lot of fun. I know we kind of ran the gambit, but it's a flame trench. This is what we do. We just talk space nerd stuff, and we all love it. Be sure to watch next week. Oh, no. EJ's got his blowtorch and a real heat shield. He might actually do it. Be sure to watch next week. Go ahead.
Chat's been very supportive. That's all I'm saying.
There it is.
There you go.
They've been very
Science.
They've been very supportive. So
Right.
I figure we'd end this with a bang, or flames, whatever. Flames.
I love it.
Here. Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? I love it. Space Pope, thank you. $50 super chat. Happy holidays to everybody, and may space be with you. Thank you very much. There you go. That was hot. See what I did there? See what I did there? It was hot.
Because I'm seeing, Jay, that we're not gonna have time for the gifts. We can do them quickly.
I think this is better than the gift, man.
We'll do the gifts quickly. Watch next week's The Flame Trench. It's going to be something special. Thank you to all the members who joined us this time around. Thank you, Jay, for operating. EJ, Alex, thank you guys so much. This is what you do. Launch directors, flight engineers. This is we can't do this without you guys, and we appreciate your support. Go check out all of the merch. We all love this stuff. That's why we wear it so much. Stay right where you are. This week in Spaceflight. It's coming up next right here on NSF. And we answer as many questions as we could. He's going to roll the music, and we're going to say thank you one last time. EJ, it's been a pleasure. He's touching the hot side.
Yeah, you can. No, it's been great. This has been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed the quick science experiment.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you and all your knowledge.
Yeah, it's been a while. See you all next time. I don't know when.
Yeah. Till next time, for NSF, I've been Gene Rowley. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, dream big. Keep your eyes on the stars. We'll catch you next time.
And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Echo down to nominal.
Flight downside at speed off. Bring in at speed off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Look at this! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.
We're clear, standby.